Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This movie is directed by Mark Webb, who directed the first Spider-Man movie. This movie stars Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, Jamie Foxx, and Dane DeHaan. So I was a bit disappointed with the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. I wanted this movie to focus on the things the first one couldn't. I wanted Spider-Man to be developed, be his own person. I wanted Peter Parker to be used to being Spider-Man. I also wanted the movie to elaborate on why his parents disappeared. And this movie succeeds on both those fronts. And even though this movie is extremely emotional and exciting, it's also really rushed and cluttered. This is normally the part where I tell you the plot of the movie, but unfortunately it doesn't really have one. Rather, it's a bunch of subplots that come together and intertwine to form a story. The movie starts out with Peter trying to keep and fulfill the promise that he made to Gwen's father in the first movie. Enter Max Dillon, Harry Osborn, add in Peter's on-and-off relationship with Gwen Stacy, and him trying to figure out what happened to his parents, and there's your story. As far as the acting goes, most of the players involved were good. Andrew Garfield, I've got to say, carried this movie. In the first one, I kind of felt he was more of a jerk as Spider-Man, and he wasn't really developed as Peter Parker. But in this one, he held his own, both in the relationship department with Gwen, but also being, the nephew to Aunt May, but also the best friend to Harry Osborn, as well as Spider-Man. His jokes were actually funny. He was actually clever and enjoyable to watch. And the scenes where he had to get emotional, man, he really pulled it off. Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, she also nailed it as well. She really didn't skip a beat from her portrayal. In the first one, she was just more emotional as well. Dane DeHaan as Harry Osborn, really good. I mean, there's nobody else I could picture as Harry Osborn than him. He did a really good job. Jamie Foxx as Electro was the problem with the movie. As Max Dillon, he was fine. He pulled it off. But as he transformed into Electro, he really stopped becoming Jamie Foxx. I mean, his voice was staticky, and that was cool, but you really didn't need Jamie Foxx for that part of the character. Sally Field as Aunt May, really good job. I'm glad they finally gave her some scenes that were worthy of an actress like that to play her, because she was also really emotional. And that was really the theme of this movie, it was darker, more serious, and a lot more emotional. This movie was really just a roller coaster of emotions and excitement. Special effects in this movie were really cool. During the fight scenes, they even added some slow motion parts, which was more or less to give way to the IMAX and 3D aspects of the movie, but I just wish they had slowed down the pace of the movie, because aside from the Gwen-Peter relationship and Electro's storyline, everything else just felt rushed towards the finale or the next movie. First off, the Electro storyline could have been cool, but I don't see the point in having an origin story for a villain because they're all the same. Oh, it's a good guy, something bad happens to him, and he turns into a bad guy. Especially when you're not going to keep that villain for more than one movie, I just don't see the point. I also didn't care for the rushing of Harry Osborn. He seemed to be just dropped in this movie. I understand he was established in the previous Spider-Man franchise, but it's like Mark Webb tries to do different things from that franchise, yet they end up being the same. The story of Norman and Harry Osborn was different, but I just felt like Norman Osborn was brought in by Chris Cooper, who was pretty much wasted in this movie, to establish Harry Osborn. Harry Osborn had to be established to intensify the finale of the movie. And that only had to happen to get ready for things in the future, in future movies. And it just felt like they were all planning for something bigger. I understand that this movie, I guess, was trying to take a lead from Marvel and all the Avengers stuff they're doing with name-dropping and referencing future characters and villains, but it just felt like overkill in this movie, because the next movie is going to have a lot of people, namely 6 of them. And it's going to be a mess if they don't pull it off right and pace themselves. A big problem I had with the first film was that the untold story of Peter's parents tied in to the current situation going on with him and the villain, and I thought that was a little ridiculous. But they did it again in this movie, where the untold story and origin and stuff of his parents tied in with Oscorp and what was going on, and I just thought that was silly. It was an emotional part in the movie, but I thought it was silly, because I would think the untold stuff would be something totally different, but it kind of came full circle, so that's done with now. So, because this movie had emotional parts, it had some cool parts, it had some exciting parts, and had some pretty cool music at times, but overall, it was rushed and just clustered. I'm going to give The Amazing Spider-Man 2 a B+. It had some emotional parts, some good acting, but overall, it was slightly better than the first one. So until next time, guys, see ya.